Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got something pretty unique on the table here. I've got a Sig Sauer P229 Elite Scorpion. It's a 9mm pistol from SIG, and it's part of their classic line, the classic hammer-fired, in this case a DASA, Sig Sauer. And it would be a compact. It would be the next size down from something like a P226. So it's actually a pretty cool gun, and it's got a lot of cool features. So let me pick it up and show you a few things about it. We'll start out with showing that it's unloaded. Now the rounds that you see in the magazine here these are snap caps. They're inert dummy rounds that are used to protect the firing pin when I demonstrate the trigger, because we don't dry fire guns that don't belong to us. And as I mentioned, I picked this up at our friends over at Guns Galore. Happened to stop in and they had just gotten their hands on it. So we do have an unloaded gun. So at this point, let me tell you a few things about it. First, I'm going to put this magazine back in, chamber one of these snap caps, so that I can demonstrate the trigger. Now I did mention that it's a DASA trigger, so right now you'll see that because I cycled it, the hammer's back and it's in single action mode. You notice the trigger is back. There's a little bit of take up. It's very light take up, and it's very smooth. And then that is the entire break. It's an extremely short break. And then if I cycle it, I've got more snap caps so the ejected one won't hurt. This does come with the factory SRT trigger, which is short reset trigger. That's the entire reset. There's no take up after the reset unless you let it bounce out, and then the break again. Now that the hammer's down, I'll demonstrate the double action mode. So I've let it all the way out. There's a minimal amount of take up before you start to get some tension, and as you pull back on it, it's heavy and it's a little bit long, but it's very, very smooth. And then at the back you get the break. SIG rates the double action at around 10 pounds, and it feels like it. And they rate the single action at 4.4 pounds, and it really feels lighter than that. So that it's got an extremely nice trigger. So let me show you a few of the other characteristics of it. It does have a decocker. It's got a number of different safety features. It does not have a thumb safety. This is the slide stop. But it does have a decocker, so if I had the hammer in the cocked position, I can safely decock the gun using the decock lever, and now it's in double action mode. There's a round in the chamber. If there was a live round in the chamber, I could safely carry it this way. It is a drop safe weapon. I'll show you the drop safety when I get it apart. And in this mode, you'd have that heavy, long first pull, and then of course it would cycle if it fired, and then it would be in single action mode. Or you could cock the hammer, be ready to go, and then if you changed your mind and decided, no, I'm not going to fire, I want to go back to safe, and just decock it again. One of the things you'll find with this is it's got a rebounding hammer. You'll see the hammer is back a little bit from the firing pin, and I can't push it forward to hit the firing pin. So that's one part of the drop safety. There's also an internal firing pin block. But when you actually fire it, if I bring it back and I fire it and I'll let the hammer down, as long as I have the trigger pulled, it can hit. So that's how it's able to reach the firing pin to fire the gun, because I fired it, I had the trigger back, and now it can reach the hammer. As soon as I let the trigger out just a little bit and it resets, then it locks, so it no longer can reach the hammer. So the gun is not designed to be carried with the hammer cocked and around in the chamber, because there is no mechanical safety, there's no thumb safety, but it is very safe to carry it in this hammer down position with a live round in the chamber. As long as you don't pull the trigger, you've got two safeties that would have to fail. This would have to break and the internal safety would have to fail in order for it to go off. A few of the other things about it, I mentioned earlier that this is a Hogue grip. It's a Hogue G10 grip, and it does wrap around, so it goes all the way around. It kind of feels like wood up at the top. It's nice and smooth. You get down here into the stippling, and it's really grippy. Now it doesn't scratch you, it doesn't bite into your hand. Back here the stippling is real aggressive, but again it doesn't bite into your hand. And the front strap is checkered. So with the checkering on the front strap, it feels fairly smooth. It doesn't really bite into your hand either. But when you do get a hold of it, you get a nice, comfortable, solid grip. It feels like I've got a hold of this gun. It's not going to move anywhere in my hand. This polymer, this is kind of a polymer, the G10, It's water resistant and everything else, so it doesn't matter, it's not going to get hurt by sweat, water, or whatever you might expose it to. But it has a really cool look, kind of a snakeskin look. And this can be taken off and replaced with any other SIG grip if you wish to. This series comes with the SIG Light night sights. They're a 3-dot sight, if I can get them lined up. Real clear, real easy to see. They're bright because they've got a tritium vial for night. They kind of show up greenish, but they've got a white ring around them. So they're easy to see during the day and easy to see at night. They both can be drifted out, they're dovetailed. They can both be drifted out and replaced if you wanted a different type of sight or if they eventually gassed out. But they're really nice sights and they're steel sights, so they're real solid. So I'm looking at this fine, and I probably wouldn't be inclined to change them. I can use them during the day at the range real well, and I can use them at night, kind of the best of both worlds. So they're not sights you want to change probably, but you can. So a few other things I'll show you is the rail. It's got a Picatinny rail, a couple slots. Now one thing I noticed about this, it's got a little curvature to it. And that curvature might play havoc with a few devices that need to sit perfectly flush on the rail, kind of round it a little bit. Many devices would tolerate that. You might find a particular accessory you want to attach here that'd have a problem with it. It does have front serrations if you want to use it for press checking. They're real easy to get a hold of either from the bottom or from the top, while keeping your hand away from the muzzle. And of course it has nice solid serrations at the back to get a good grip on it to cycle the gun. It's real stylish too, a little bit of sculpting, a little bit of rounded makes it easier to holster. So it's overall, it's not only is it a nice looking gun, but it's functional. And it's even got some checkering on the front of the trigger guard to, if you want to rest your finger up there. And there's different opinions on, that particular thing, but if that's what you like, then it's available to you. And you'll see it's got a nice undercut here in the trigger guard, so that you get your hand right up in there. So when you get a hold of the gun in your hand, it really feels solid. You can feel a nice comfortable grip on it. It's easy to locate your finger. Overall, it's a very easy to hold gun and comfortable to hold. And we found it pretty easy to shoot while at the range. It's a lot of fun to shoot. The weight of it comes in around 30.3 ounces with an empty magazine. So the weight of it handles the recoil in 9mm quite well. Dimensionally, the gun comes in at 7.7 inches front to back. It's 5.4 inches tall. And the slide is only about 1 inch thick. So you'd think, okay, I've got a thin gun. But by the time you come out to the grips, as they puff out, the very pronounced controls, the maximum thickness of the gun comes out to about 1.4 or 1.5 inches. So it's not a small gun in any respect, but it is compact enough that it could be used for concealed carry. It'd make a perfect home defense gun, and it's a lot of fun at the range. And of course, with the looks of it and the styling, it has some collector appeal. From a pricing standpoint, I've seen these, retailing between $1,100 and $1,300. I'm sure that you can find them less expensively, especially on the used market. Best as I can tell, and of course SIG Sight's really bad sometimes at trying to figure out what is their current models, but as best as I can tell, this is a discontinued model. I do see some new ones out there, but when you look at SIG Sight, it doesn't show up on the 229 site at all. And and I've seen that with the TAC Ops, was brand new and it didn't show up on their site. But I think this one is actually probably a discontinued model. So with SIGs, that probably will actually drive the price up because they are popular, and you may find it harder to get one of these at at a discount because of it being the Elite, being a specialty model, and I believe being discontinued. It holds 15 rounds. And of course, I still got those snap caps. It's a nice steel magazine with a nice solid polymer base plate. So if you drop it, it'll be quiet. It'll minimize the likelihood of damaging it. So let me go ahead and take it apart and show you some of the internals on it. Disassembly on this and any of these classic SIGs is real easy. You have to lock it back, so of course you're going to ensure that it's unloaded, and I just ejected that snap cap. But you lock it back, flip down the takedown lever, grab a hold of the slide because it's under tension, and it slides right off. Now you've got the slide. It's a single non-captive recoil spring with a steel guide rod, so you want to hold on to it because it will kind of try to get away from you. And the spring will stay on the guide rod. 3.9-inch barrel, very well finished, very smooth. Everything, you'll find that with SIGs. They do it right. They do all the finishing steps to make things nice and polished and smooth. It's got a very smooth feed ramp. It's kind of polished similar to the ones you like on a Glock. It's not mirror finish polish, but it's quite smooth. And when we had this at the range, it ran everything that we ran. The only malfunction at all we had was actually a dead round. So, after I ejected the round, the primer was struck quite well, so it truly was a dead round. That cheap perfecting ammo from Walmart. But it ate it, it ran fine, and no malfunctions at all that were even remotely related to the gun itself. You can see the bottom profile. So it's a very nicely done barrel. We get into the slide, and as you would expect, everything is smooth, polished, clean. There's no burrs. The loading ramp is polished and smooth. This piston right here is the piston for the drop safety. So as I mentioned, it is a drop safe weapon right there. And you can see the slide guides right in the side there. And everything is just well done, nicely done and smooth. So let me show you the frame. And similar to the slide, the frame is quite well done, very smooth and machined. Kind of busy at the back with the fire control group. There's a little bit going on back there. Very solid locking block up front. And then full-length rails right through here. So nice, solid, robust, full-length rails. It is an alloy slide, an alloy frame and a stainless steel slide, so that you get a little bit of lightening from the alloy. But with these full-length rails, and then at the back, we've actually got pretty robust rails here at the back. You're not going to have any problems with the rails failing or losing control of the slide. It's just a well done, solid construction. So we go ahead and put it back together, which is actually fairly easy. Let me set the frame aside, and then we'll put the slide together and then put it back on the frame. So fairly easy to do. Drop the barrel in place. Now, one of the things I find with this one, when you're trying to put the recoil spring in, you slide it in, I'm going to guide it in, it's easy to catch the flange here with your finger, so sometimes it's easier to put your finger in front of the barrel to keep the barrel from coming out and then dropping it in place. And the paint isn't significant as to which end it's on, but when I did take the gun apart, I found it at this end, so I'm keeping it at this end. Really, it dictates which weight spring you've got. So once I slid that in, I used my finger to hold the barrel in place, because otherwise your finger will catch this. Then it went in real easy. And it's not a heavy spring, so it's real easy to just slide right in. It doesn't fight you. Take the frame, line it up, slide it back, and then lock it back. Once it's locked back, flip this up, and then put it back into battery. Now you're ready to go. From a size perspective, if you're trying to see what this gun would look like, I'm going to put this mag in with these snap caps just so that you can do a apples to apples. I've got an M&P 2.0 here, which is unloaded. This M&P 2.0, which is the same size basically as the original M&P, these would be easy to find in a gun store. So if you're trying to figure out what would this look like, and you can't find a SIG, you could probably find one of these. So what we'll do is, I'm going to drop the hammer on this one, is line them up and show you what we've got. So if I try to line these up beaver tail to beaver tail, because of course the beaver tail does affect how you're going to carry it, you can see that the M&P is about maybe a 1/4 inch shorter overall. Beaver tail lined up to what little beaver tail the M&P has. From a height perspective, the M&P is just a hair taller. If I turn them around the other side, kind of give you a better approximation of that, you'll see the M&P is just a hair taller. But the M&P holds 17 rounds, SIG holds 15 rounds. So it's kind of interesting that the M&P is almost maybe just an 1/8 inch taller, but holds an extra 2 rounds. And a lot of that has to do with SIGs have a higher bore access, a taller gun. SIGs are just bigger up here on average than many other guns. But that gives you a rough idea of what the what the package would be of sizes, comparing something you can easily find to something you might have a little harder time finding. These can be done in concealed carry, inside the waistband or outside the waistband, depending on how you want to do it. A little bit too big for a pocket gun, but it would be really well suited to home defense, range use, and things like that. We found the gun to be a lot of fun to shoot. They are very nice looking, which is kind of typical of SIGs. It was dead reliable, it just worked. And with that SRT trigger, it had an excellent trigger, so that you can really enjoy taking this thing to the range and shooting it. So if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, visit our friends over at Guns Galore. I'll put the contact information down in the description, and have a great day. Thank you. .226 magazine hangs down a little bit, but it should work.